Yeah. You already know. It's Kappa Kappa. Young millionaires. The general. Okay, I wake up every day. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Every day I'm getting paid. Man, this life is going great. I just wanna celebrate. I made it in and out of state. $1 million in the case. I got it hidden somewhere safe. I multiply all my millions and really I am extremely wealthy. I distributed my millions with my family. This is just the beginning. I purchased a Lamborghini, driving around the city. Believe me, you haven't seen me. Made it through all the struggle, defeated all of my rivals. I was never entitled. I had to fight for survival. Man, this life is amazing. It's crazy the way we made it. Now I'm living my dreams and I'm barely just getting started. I made it through the struggle back when I was very worried. Now I'm chilling in my condo, Lamborghinis and Bugatti. I know you in a hurry, but I promise don't be worried. When you see me in a club, I probably got enough to party. I'm a multi-millionaire, getting money everywhere. I ain't tripping on nobody, I just came to celebrate. Yeah, we got the party popping, got the general over here, throwing money in the air, cause we get it every day. I multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling.
What's up, gang? We're here live from the grill. We got the general, we got Big John, we got Nikki G. Winston's lost, but he should be coming. What's up, guys?
How's it going? How's it going?
I'm really freaking excited today. You know, I'm really fired up. Today's topic's I think this is gonna be something powerful for people out there to really listen to and stuff. You got that up, John?
Yeah, I do. I go, is your current circle making you level up in mind, body, and spirit? Time to self-reflect.
So I'm going to kind of start with a couple of things. I'm going to do this backwards, right? And so what I want to talk to you today about, I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to start with the body. And I'm going to tell you a great little story, right? So I was out in Cabo San Lucas tearing it up, right? Having a great time with my friends. And the group of guys we have are just freaking amazing dudes all the way around. But I'm the youngest in the group, right? So we got friends that are going to be 50 years old, you know, kind of like their mid to late 40s. A lot of group that was in there. And one of the things that I hear all the time when a lot of guys are turning like 40 years old or even in their mid 30s is they start using that word like, oh, we're getting old, we're getting this. And it always freaks me out when people talk like that, because when today's topic is about those seeds, are they getting in your head and are there to get planted? Because there's no excuse, right? And so one of the things that I really want to share with you guys is, and this is an actual statistic, right? I didn't give it to you, John, and put it up. I'm just going to go ahead and read this one. And this was done at, I'm going to tell you right now, when I get through life. Here it is, watch. University of Oklahoma researchers compared people of different ages who followed the exact same program for 8 weeks. They found the guys between 35 and 50 years old built just as much muscle as those between 18 and 22 years old. They used a dual energy X-ray. The scan showed that the college-aged men gained around 2 pounds of muscle, while the middle-aged men put on 2.5 pounds of muscle. Moreover, strength gains in both the bench press, 7 pounds for the college-aged men and 14 pounds for the middle-aged men. And the leg press, 55 pounds for the college-aged men and 40 pounds for the middle-aged men, were similar in both groups. So there's also a Stanford that backed this up. So basically what it's basically telling you is that when you start to put this shit in your head, you know, whatever goes in your mind, the body follows. That's why I kind of started with in that beginning spot, right? And what I was telling the guys is we're in there playing and I blew both my hamstrings. So we like to play a lot of street volleyball. And we just go hard, right? I mean, talking hard in the paint. I still got those monster vertical leaps. You know me, I'm competitive in everything I do. But when me and my buddy, one of the buddy Gabe says, you know, I'm gonna throw you a sprint. I laid down this sprint. I freaking threw my knee out and it's both my hamstrings right. Philly, you're the freaking man. The grill, no other place.
Grill on San Mateo.
So you know, one of the things is like, oh, are you getting older? And I'm thinking, are you fucking kidding me? But, you know, I don't let it go. I'm like, no way in hell, this is not where it's at. And so I said, you know what? Is it in my head or am I going to go home and start doing this research? And, you know, I've showed you guys multiple times that guy, Michael Hearn, 51 years old, where he's at. But this is what I discovered going through all these different studies. Actually, your body doesn't start to actually slow down till 56 to 60.
Wow.
So all these preconceived notions that we're putting in our mind is fucking everybody up. Yeah. And so, you know, I was talking to Michael one day and he says a lot of the buddies around him and stuff, they're like, oh, I can't do that. You know, I'm older, or, you know, even down to like, I'm not going to have fun because I'm getting older. And I'm like, what the fuck is that about? Right. So this is about really how is your circle influencing your thought process? And then ultimately, where is it going to end you up personally? And so I started to go back on my own mind and thought, you know what got me here to the success level that I did? So early on in my life, when you really start to think about this, and then we're going to circle back here. Early on in my life, I literally had friends in different circles and different demographics. One of the earlier podcasts, you guys met Al Showman. Al came in, big time powerlifter, bodybuilder. And, you know, I used to hang with him on the weekends and early in the mornings. And then, you know, we became really close friends. And that's where I got all my bodybuilding, powerlifting from. But everyone he hung with were nothing but bodybuilders and powerlifters. Right? So I'm picking up these habits. I'm watching them. So it's that piece. Then I went to go work at a company called CA, all brainiacs, right? Monster brainiacs, computer engineers. One of them, Abe Salazar, probably one of the smartest men I've ever met in my entire life. His brother, just as smart. Where did I get my spreadsheet ability was sitting down there with Damon and learning that. The way of technology discovery, getting that, sitting with Abe. So when I was thinking about, I had all these different people, but they were in different circles. They necessarily weren't in the same circle. And so I think the really big thing is sometimes we're trying to get everything out of one person and we're setting them up to fail and we're setting ourselves up to failure. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Then, you know, I told you guys this. I used to go a lot to youth group and I had an amazing priest named Father Adam, very smart. He just wasn't stuck on one thing. And so he would challenge me and I would ask him so many questions. Why this, why that, why this, and why that? So he was actually strengthening my spirituality and teaching me stuff according to the Bible or this. And I was like, holy smokes, right? When I studied with Luke, teaching me the martial arts and the meditation piece of it. So you see what I'm trying to say? It wasn't one person or one demographic. But I think what ends up happening is, as individuals, we end up sitting with one group and think that we're going to get it all from everybody. And this is where I'm really sad when you see a bunch of guys sitting at the bar talking about how they're going to get fit or how they're going to get out of their current position. And all they're doing is just wasting fucking time, right? It's entertainmentville. You're not doing anything. You're not going to do anything to get you to the next level. This is what I love so much about what we have here on the podcast is such a diversity of individuals, from myself to Big John to yourself, Nikki, to Carson. Because, you know, I'll be really honest. When I'm sitting with Carson, I'm hitting with him in the gym or I'm walking with him, he says, you're the only guy I never hears like, oh, you know, I'm older by you by 15 years and here and this. And it's like, that never crosses my mind. Never crosses my mind. I'm like, dude, I'll whoop your ass. I'm going to take it to the paint to you. And I think that process I have is that kind of warrior mentality is I'm not going to give up till I lose. Or being a warrior, you would have died. So then you wouldn't come back to say I took that ass kicking, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's that. So I want you to kind of touch about any experiences you have on that aspect, any of them that touch your mind.
Absolutely. So one of the things I want to note it on is a lot of people argue for their limitations. They want to convince you why we should believe why they can't do something. It almost validates, the reason for not being able to move forward or be stronger or be better. And so like in my life, I've always had different demographics in a sense, from athletes, political people, anybody with success, and everybody has a pattern or a strategic type of way of thinking and doing stuff. And in that pattern, it actually shows the results, so growing up, hanging out when I went to college, I hung out with some of the best CAD drafters. And in that sense, I actually was able to develop new skills, being able to learn stuff that I wasn't available to me growing. So when I was in school with all these guys, instead of, using being a female as an excuse, I just kept on going and I got better at what I did. And so when you spoke about having friends in different demographics, I always took what served me out of each and every group that I was in, and I released what didn't serve me. Didn't mean that it wasn't correct or wasn't, was correct. It just didn't relate to me. So as I navigated through life, and I went to college, and then I went on and I started with my bachelor's as I've already in my career. I pick and chose who I was with. While I was working with Fender, I saw who was great in there, and I was like, I'm going to be friends with you, right? And here I was working with Sean Green. I'm like, show me everything you learned. But he didn't just say, here's this. I had to earn my way to even get to work with him. He had a thing called the gauntlet, and I had to use an X-Acto knife and cut out exact circles and shapes of the USB cords and all this stuff to go into stuff. And if you mess up once, you have to start all over. And let me tell you, if you just push a little hard, that X-Acto knife will cut right through it. So it taught me a lot of stuff. So before I can even work with him, I had to learn the skill of, having self-control of your hands and being very strong in what you're doing, because one little slip, you start all over. So I remember when I turned in the gauntlet was what they called it. I was so proud, even though I went through like 3, I was so proud that I went there. But what it did is it leveled me up. Even though I was the greatest in my friends, I was not greatest in my career. I was never like that. And I'm always a student and a teacher. And I think that's where people mess up, is you might be highly skilled in your field or in your subject, but if you always perceive yourself as the teacher and overall everybody, you'll always suppress yourself. Like I always learn to navigate, am I the student right now or am I the teacher? And right there is a game changer, because yes, I'm highly educated. Yes, I'm really good at what I do. But when I hang out with other photographers, I'm not a photographer. I just try to milk as much as I can. And I always honor them. And that goes back to our last thing. Like I honor greatness. I don't care if no one sits there and blows up my pages and shares my work. But let me tell you, I show love to everybody. I support them because I know that by me honoring greatness and me honoring people's patterns and their system and the way they do things, it levels me up, Then we go into self-development. Here I am rolling with the general, and I'm always, he doesn't know, but I look at like what books are on his desk. What is he reading? What's something I learned from him recently? And then I watch his patterns, but everything's a pattern and everything is a result of a pattern. So if we just learn to take what serves us and release what doesn't serve us, we wouldn't be even where we are, because a lot of people stand in their own way by their own patterns, by their own belief systems, and by their thought process. Because a belief system comes along from like our generation stuff, what we were taught in school or our grandparents repeated to us. One of the best things I ever did is reprogram my mind. I couldn't figure out why I was holding out on a lot of manifestations. And then I realized that I smushed in a burrito old thought patterns and new thought patterns and was trying to make something out of it. Well, some of those old thought patterns were like big old bricks that just held me down.
And Nikki, how do you think you broke that apart?
I relearned anything I've ever learned
But what made you think I'm gonna relearn this?
because I didn't like the results I was seeing.
Okay, that's good. And so the data that you're putting in your mind, how are you quantifying that? And this is a trick question. You know, I'm leading into it.
I know. I can smell it coming.
You know, I'm leading into a trick thing, and this is what I don't want people. Not saying you're doing this, but it's what I don't want people out there listening doing this. This is why it's called the Truth Podcast, right? And so I'm leading into something, but don't get nervous on me. So, what do you? When you say, okay, I don't like these results, and then you were seeking the individuals, what made you say, I'm going to put this into my mind? What do you think it was?
You know, I remember collecting information that I didn't understand, but I knew it was something great. Like I couldn't fathom what it meant.
But that's scary. See?
Yes. However,
Okay.
It's just unknown words that I never did. So what I did is I broke down the information. If I didn't know the word, I checked out the definition and I educated me on the content. And then from there, you know.
So this is one thing that I like that I'm working with you. And I tell everyone, when we use the word greatness, right? Like when greatness comes to my mind, and I'm gonna go athletics, I think of first guy that comes to my mind is LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Mayweather, you know, at that level. So when you said, I knew they were great things. This is one thing that I want people to go out there. So you talk about generational things, right? We could have a guy in our community, like where I was growing up, and we may think he's great, but he's really good. And we never want to get to the point where we think good is great because we've now just taken the ceiling off and we're stuck. And the example is this. When I talk to a lot of the guys, they're like, why was this, you know, athlete in high school? And then I fuck with them and I'm like, well, I was the only pro athlete. And then they're like, oh, they get pissed off, right? But this is what I'm talking about. So that's good. But if we quantify it to everything, right? Tom Brady, great. I mean, so what I want people not to get to is that the information that's being fed to them, don't give it a rate scale till you actually subatomically measured it. And I'll give you an example. I go out the door, and guy gives me a bunch of like, oh, this, that, the other. And he's like, I'm a financial guy. And he's fucking driving off in a Toyota Corolla. It's all fucked up. Everything he got, the financial advice he gives doesn't mean shit. I'm telling you right now. So now we've laid what we think is good and great on something that's not there. So before we do any of that, what we want to do is we want to say, based on the accolades or the measurement. Now let me tell you what I love about science. Science, what's the freezing point?
32.
32 degrees, right?
Yep.
What's boiling?
Fahrenheit.
What is boiling point?
160? No, it's more than that.
I don't know.
Let's see, check it out. Let's see.
212.
212. If you look at that, 32 to 212, that's a measurable. So let me ask you this question. So bath water, when it comes out, we know it's like kind of hot, right? We touch it. We could have been, was that boiling water? No, it's not fucking boiling water. And so now we gave a word to something that hasn't earned it. And now we've based ourselves off something that we thought, but we're looking through eyes that have never been proven. And this is how fucked up this whole situation is. So I guess what I'm talking about is there's a lot of guys that can look up to me or look up to certain guys that have done something, and then they're like, oh, they must be great at everything. Not true. Because what are you great in? So if you go in, and when I use Michael Hearn, just because Michael Hearn's great in fitness doesn't mean that Michael Hearn's going to be good in finance. But he could be. A lot of people are multifaceted. But what I'm saying is, who has a master? So what you do is you say, shit, you know what? In this realm, Michael Hearn, I'm going to go to Michael Hearn. I'm going to say, hey, Mike, can I sit with you, learn all this shit? This is what I want to get to. You've been through this fitness your whole life. What works, what doesn't, what gets you and all that. He's the fucking master. So that's greatness. So because it's been proven, 51 years old, you look like that. That's greatness, right? Warren Buffett. You're at that level. You start here, you're a fucking billionaire. That's greatness. Mm-hmm. So we have to stop thinking something's great when we can't measure it because we never tasted it. So when you're coming out of Penasco or you're like me, you think the greatest thing that's out there is Lottaburger, right? And it's badass, don't get me wrong, right? Mm-hmm. But then we're like, well, I want to give you a Kobe beef burger, right? And you're like, what the fuck is that? So what I'm saying, based on what are we going to gauge greatness, and that's what we don't want to be stuck on. So what we want to be able to do, and this is why the internet is so powerful. This is where they say knowledge is power, because what it does, it takes us out of imprisonment. So it takes us out of not just being in one single area and saying, this is it. The local drug dealer is great. No, that's not even fucking mediocrity. Oh, this athlete was great. No. It's kind of like what we talk about John's son. He's not gauging himself off New Mexico. I'm not putting New Mexico down. He has to gauge himself off the percentage of nationally, because that's what's going to the NFL. That's what I'm talking about. This post this morning, Michael Horn put, he says, if you're the strongest guy in the gym, then come train with the Titans. Mm-hmm. I used to be that guy, strongest guy in the gym. But if I would have rolled with the Titans, I wouldn't have, but I would have been pushed so much more. But that's not what I wanted to do. But do you see what I'm trying to say, Nikki?
Absolutely.
So I think that when we start to just use the word very freely, greatness, and these big words that aren't quantifiable, we need to stop. And what we need to start off is really calling for what it is. Like, you know what I'm trying to tell you? When you're in there, like, you know what? This car's fast. And you're in, I don't fucking know, a Mustang, yeah. But it's not super fast. That's why in the car world, they call it sports cars, supercars, and hypercars. And there's got to be a certain category for you to meet in those things. And it's going to be based on speed, braking, performance, crash testing, all that stuff. It's like some guy told me one time, it's funny, he's called me and said, you know what? I can put this much money into my Mustang and I could probably beat that Lamborghini in the quarter mile. And I said, sure, probably could. But can you beat me at 200? Let's see who does 0 to 200. And he got all pissed off. Oh, and he right away took it all offensive. And I said, but I'll tell you this. If you look up right now, the top 3 killers in the United States is Corvette, Camaro, and Mustang. How many people do you know of? There's been a lot of Lamborghini crashes, but how many have ever been killed in the fucking car? So you're not paying the $200,000-$300,000 for the actual performance. You're paying it for the technology and the crash test. Just like an F1 race car. They're meant to wreck at 300 miles an hour. Wow. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we can't be measuring talking about greatness because that's not a true fact.
Well, I think it goes even to the subject of this whole topic is leveling up. You know, Hearn made a great correlation to that. You're not going to level up if you're the strongest guy there. You know, you make the correlation with my son. You know what? He may be really good here, but he's not going to level up unless he goes and competes against the best in the nation. So I agree. I completely agree with that.
John, it's like, let's start a little bit like on the education side, right? And the mind side. I mean, you being, you know, I think like I talked to you a lot. What made you like, were you hanging with a lot of educators or were you like challenging professors or what poked you know to say when you're sitting there and someone's like, John, you're full of shit. That data you gave is incorrect. Yeah. It's this.
Helping kids. I remember my first couple of years and just going through the motions of, hey, let's just do the questions at the back of the chapter and let's do this and I'll lecture. And it would just, you know, seeing old antiquated ways of doing things and not seeing, I could see that the best kids were bored, you know, because it was so easy for them. They were accustomed to that mundane type of task, you know, and I remember changing sort of my philosophy and saying, you know what, I'm going to freaking challenge the strongest kids because I want them to level up because to me, I'd be pissed if my own kid came to this and didn't get anything from it other than stuff they could have done themselves.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, that part of the mind of why I wanted it was to help other kids, just like I want to help my own sons, but I want to help any other person's kids too. Now, are the parents who've taught those kids, are those kids prepared for that? A lot of them aren't. Are prepared for sarcasm, aren't prepared for, intellectual witty banter that goes along with those things, you know? So, you know, Carson talks about it all the time. He goes, a lot of kids didn't like me because they couldn't understand that because their parents never ever, you know, taught them that way. You know,
You know what's so crazy? You said that, John, about being ready for intellectual wittiness. That is one of the things that, I talk about calmness and patience, right? And everyone says, you're one of the most patient individuals you ever met. And I'm going to tell you why. Anytime I've ever struck based on anger or excitement or any of that, I've made mistakes. And with wisdom, you take a while before you strike. You analyze everything that's in front of you. Whether someone tries to fuck you over or whatever it is, you don't strike immediately, right? That's like a savage animal. That doesn't make any sense.
You don't react, you respond.
No reactions, right? But in my database, when I'm like bantering, I know how to banter with you, but it's not going to be really too in depth. It's just me fucking with you and then throw you off for kilter to give me enough seconds to study you, right? And I think one of the things that John, holy shit, that's something so powerful you just said, and people don't realize. I think because my parents traveled me, and I would spend time with people that were smarter than them, and I was around these professors and like these psychologists that they liked my mom, and I would always be talking to them, and I got an opportunity to learn from these brilliant minds. And what I learned about them is they were like kind of jokesters, kind of hard ones, but it started to train me how to get there. But when I was going back home, I was too ahead of everyone else because I had that edge. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that we're not prepared for because the world is brutal. When you get out to the real world, it's brutal. And the big thing is, can you handle the heat? My dad's famous line used to be, if you can't handle the heat of the kitchen, get out of the kitchen, right? And it's really how much heat can you take before you break? Because it's fucking brutal.
Yeah.
You have to learn. People ask me, what have I mastered? And I tell people, I have mastered to eat shit sandwiches. The fucking general eats shit sandwiches. You wouldn't believe that, would you? You don't get to my level for taking the power position. Trust me. We all start somewhere. But what I've learned is to bite my tongue a lot because I know what the end result is, what I'm trying to get to. Say I have a customer and the customer is just bad. And ultimately I'm there and say in a board meeting, I just totally annihilate them. You may think that you won the battle, but you lost the war. So what it could do is send two different messages. One, they could be this arrogant fuck. Two, I can't believe that he just annihilated that person. And people will then put themselves in it and say, well, if I was in that position, would he do that to me without knowing the backstory? So then it puts you in a very bad position. But if you kind of deflect them for a little bit. Have you guys seen this new show called Cobra Kai?
oh yeah. I watched it when it first came out before it ever came.
Okay, freaking John Killen always ahead of the game, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Nikki?
No.
You have to watch every episode.
It's a spin-off of Karate Kid.
Okay.
It's 30 years after
Wait,
Karate
I have
Kid.
because my niece was watching it. So yes.
Okay.
I've seen parts of it.
Yes.
Holy shit, you could learn so much from watching Cobra Kai. And I'm going to tell you why. So when you think of what Cobra Kai's mission statement is, it's strike first, strike hard, no mercy. I might be chopping it up, but I think it's those three things. Then you look at Mr. Miyagi, right? And Daniel's son kind of has his own dojo, and Mr. Miyagi's passed away. But Mr. Miyagi would say the lesson of karate is only to defend. Cobra Kai's whole thing is fucking beat the shit out of them. You win for points if you're there, but if someone brings you the battle, you take the war to them. So one of the things that I've learned is then you look at both guys, right? You look at Daniel, where he is presently, and you look at where the other, I forget his name, Lawrence, right? Johnny Lawrence. Yeah. And you look at where he's at, and he's on a fucked up life, and Daniel ends up giving him a car and all kinds of shit, right? But that strike fast, no mercy will get you that lifestyle. You kind of be a badass, but you're fucked. And Daniel owns all these car dealerships, and what he learned is to take other people's energy and move it along, not match it. And I've had both masters, right? I had the Cobra Kai master, and I had the Master Kim that was Miyagi, right? Mm-hmm. And what I was able to do is take what you said, what was valuable from both, and mix my own. And Bruce Lee used to talk about this the most. That's why he created Jeet Kune Do. He would be like, I want to be able to teach you to be able to take somebody down, but why do you need to learn 17 katas in order to get to the next level? We need to learn this. and that's why the Chinese masters were so pissed off. But
Wow.
he was the founder and revolutionary of mixed martial arts, taking something that's antiquated, right, and making it better.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about, John.
Yeah.
And so that revolutionary mindset of making something better is there. But we can't make something better if we start labeling shit great. And that's what I'm trying to say, Nick. And I love the positive mindset, the positive attitude, all that. Don't change that. But don't give something greatness, because what's happening, everybody in today's society now is coming in and they're like, this is great, this is that, this is this. And they're failing because they want things like that, right? The social media, the instant rice shit that we talk about.
Yeah.
It's this easy. For fucking $19.99, you give me your money and I'll do this and all that, and you'll be making $7,000 a month. And I'm fucking sitting there thinking, you know what? I pull about $10,000 a month from my rentals, but that's a lot of fucking work to get to that level. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
And so those are the things that I'm trying to really get to, and so that people don't lose focus. You can't lose focus on what's really going to get you there. You know what I mean? So, not to hit Nikki with the long lens, and I'm just trying to. I'm always there, like I said. But what I don't want at the end of the day is, this is what I'm really seeing a lot of now, and I'm really, keeping my eyes open to it, because, like John said, it goes back. Life's not easy at all. And are you mentally prepared? Are you emotionally prepared? Are you physically prepared? I wasn't physically prepared to get out there and do fucking sprints. My mind said yes, but my body said no. You understand what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah, that's why you have 2 sore hamstrings. Right
Yeah,
now.
2 sore hamstrings and a freaking bum knee.
Yeah.
But what I learned was this: if I want to be able to play at that level, guess what I have to do? I have to train like a supreme athlete. There is no fucking choice. And this isn't a part-time thing. But I made a decision, and now you guys can hold me accountable, that I always want to be a supreme athlete ability. Always. And so I know the level of training that I have to put into it, and what I have to give up, and what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And it's like a second-time job. But when people are telling me, oh, no, we're just going to be family fun, I don't want family fun. I want balls to the wall. And as long as I can do it physically and mentally, I'm going to continue going balls to the wall. Right? I want to be that fucking dude that goes out there and says, you see that dude that came out, I don't know how old he is, but he put a beating to us out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you another funny story. I got a good friend. I mentored this guy. I helped him out of the streets. Basically, his name's Michael Brooks. Good photographer now. When he was up in Oregon, he wanted me to go visit him. So I went out to visit him, and we went to the Portland Trailblazer game. And I had never been like on they call it like a tram train, right? Mm-hmm. And Portland, that's all there is. And so he said, I want you to get this experience. So we started at the most high-end hotel, right, where the Trailblazers were. So I can't remember the name. I was staying there. And we take this kind of tram train all the way, and it just goes back and forth. And then I think one goes across, like, say, east and west. I don't remember, right? But I'm going to tell you this. So I'm in there. There's a lot of guys that are just, like, kind of high off their minds. So there's this older guy, right? He's sitting there. And so I'm sitting facing where I'm going in reverse. So I'm facing opposite where the train is going. And he's sitting across me and we're talking. And the train stops. And these 2 dudes saying out loud, I'm going to rob this dude. And I'm thinking, they fucking trying to, but I don't think it's us. So they get down and Mike's like, I think they're going to rob this older man. So he walked to the end because you can kind of walk through. He sits down. And I'm like, dude, they're going to get off the stop with him. And I'm like, so the moral compass hits. And I'm like, we got to fucking get down. Now, let me tell you how crazy this was. So we're in the front of the train, and they started off in the middle, and they were at the end. But as the train was going, as we got down, we're going to go help this older man. These 2 guys try to rob him. He knocks the freaking brakes out of both of them. Okay?
That's awesome.
Like, I mean, they were just laid out on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he comes up, he thought we were a part of the crew. And he stands up. I said, no, sir. So we don't have no issue with you. Comes down. He says, oh, you know what, guys? This is at one time I was young like you guys, but I was on the Olympic team. I'm a Golden Gloves, regionally, nationally, and I went to the Olympic team. And you're sitting there, and he's, he pulls out a thing and showing these pictures of these Polaroids. Good looking man, holy shit at the time. Like, you're like, holy crap. And he says, he comes out and he says, I still run 3 miles a day. And so he says, we didn't get to see it. And so he does this quick kind of shadow box right there. And I'm talking, the speed was like stupid, right? And right then and there, you think his friends are telling him to give it up? No. When that's your passion, you're not going to give it up. It's what's not your passion. You're going to be like, find an excuse to give it up. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I think that the main thing is if you're going out there and there's something that you really want to take serious, don't be taking advice from your buddies at all.
Yeah.
If you want to,
Especially the ones that become complacent.
Yep.
The ones that become complacent and don't want to grow, I guess, and even in different areas,
I told you motherfuckers can go out there to the pasture on your own. I ain't going to the pasture, baby.
Yeah.
I'm still right here on the Sahara Desert hunting all day long.
I love it.
That's funny.
That's such a beautiful story. It reminds me of this guy from Akalda named Ilu. He's an old Vietnam veteran, and that guy runs every day. And he also juices every day. And I remember sitting in his house because we were doing like a rebuild on his garage, and I was helping my old boxing coach do the construction. And I remember him getting prescription drugs and him sticking them in a box. And he's like, I don't tell the VA this, but I don't take none of this shit. He goes, and this is what he tells me. And he's like, I take care of myself. He goes, and I don't need that stuff. So I said, Elo, if there's anything you can teach people, like, what can I pass on from you? And he tells me this. He goes, when you eat greasy food, he goes, drink something hot. He goes, what happens when you try washing dishes with cold water, right? And so I start laughing. And then he goes, you can't truly love until you truly love yourself. And so that was the other thing he tells me. And then he juices. So he tells me what you put in your body is either food or poison. He goes, and that's what, and this guy was on his roof. He ran every day. I mean, when you look at him, he looked like you wanted to help him up the stairs, but he would probably pass you running up the stairs. And I'll never forget that, because that's one of the best things was really true. Oh, and then he said another thing too. And he says, what you do to others comes back. He goes, I remember I was cutting deer. Or what did he say? He was cutting up meat that he had just cooked. And he said, I kept getting bit by a mosquito. So I kept slapping myself. And he's like, damn it, came back. What I did to someone else, someone's doing to me. And it was just so funny how he said it. But I'll never forget that, man. I know he's still around and stuff, but it's so true. It's like, look at him. I see you like going to be like 115 still out running all these people. But what I love about it is because you don't just say it, you do it. When you were telling me and you're correcting me about what I said, it really took me back because then I started thinking about the people that I learned this from. And, I think about Kevin Goldberg, and he was one of my biggest mentors at 20, but that guy lived it. That guy did it. That guy walked it, right? And then I look to the left of me, and it was just someone else was just repeating what they learned from someone else. When you really look at everything in the self-development world, people just keep rewording it differently. But when you go back to like Alan Watts, to like all these different people, and you really look at the core where this came from, and you look at it and it's just like, wow, was I measuring the words or was I measuring their results? Casey Combrin, I remember when I got to work with him for like a week training and I was doing this stuff. And I was like, teach me something. Like, I was just so eager, like if he was going to teach me this magic spell of how to be successful. And he was like, you need to control your mind. He's like, meditate. And I'm like, well, what do you do when you wake up and when you go to bed? He's like, I meditate. He goes, I meditate before I go to bed and I meditate the second I wake up. He goes, I keep my mind clean and I keep my mind aware. And that's how I'm able to navigate through life like that, And then I think about like, okay, like what am I doing? Like last night, I put my phone as far as I could from where I fell asleep because I'm tired of letting other people's consciousness and subconscious feed into mind, right? So before I went to bed, I sat in my mind and, I'm a person that can pass out in 2 seconds. Like everybody hates me because I'll go hard and then I'm like, I'm out, right? But I made myself stay awake and I sat up and I was like, what am I grateful for? What am I thankful for? And what do I suck at? Because I just recently listened to an audiobook and I always focus so much of what I'm good at, but what am I not good at and what I'm good at, right? And so like I did a lot of self-reflection. And so when I woke up, my first reaction was to grab my phone, right? Because that's how the program that we lived on. But instead, I sat there and I really just like honed in on my body, on my mind. And when I woke up, I was like, wow, like the answers of I went to bed came to me because I didn't give my mind time to feed in garbage. I gave my mind time to let my divine self answer my own fucking questions, you know? And when I woke up this morning, I was like, I'm going to work out, you know, after this went in. And I just really like looked at myself as an art piece that wasn't finished.
Love this.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say was that you said you focused on some of the weaknesses? What were they?
Procrastination.
Okay.
I have major ADHD, and even sitting in your office today, I realize how extreme it is.
Okay, so because I'm going to see this.
Okay.
Procrastination. Give me the other one.
Like my attention span
Okay.
is extremely small.
Okay.
And also, what amount of time am I really putting to my dreams? And that was my biggest thing.
Okay, so this is what I want to. This is what I want you to think. This is great, listeners. So the things that Nikki just explained that she's not good at and that's out there, those are very constructive. And I'm going to circle back. This is some things that people get stuck on. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to use John's son. He's a quarterback. Why would John's son give a shit about being a middle linebacker? And then someone tells him, you're not good at a middle linebacker because you play football. This is some stupid shit. I hear this, believe it or not. And what I'm trying to say is that focus on what your goals and where you're going, because it wouldn't matter. He doesn't give a shit about being like, he cares about being a quarterback. So in your sense, Nikki, what I love what you said, and this is really being self-accountable. And when you can sit there and say, I really can't master these three things, because guess what? Those three weaknesses are what going to keep you from even good.
Mm-hmm. I know it.
Just even good. We're not even talking great. And knowing that, when you write those fuckers down, what are you going to do now to be able to get better at it? So let's start with the first one. What was the first one again?
Procrastination.
Okay, what are you going to do? Like,
I'm not going to wait till the last minute to do things.
But like in what? Like this is why like the mind is so tricky, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about this. So you got to break things up.
Okay.
So in your focus, you say, obviously you got to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't fucking procrastinate on that.
Exactly.
But on the things that you like, do you think you procrastinate?
Okay, here's where I think I lie in.
Okay.
If it's my desire, fucking kill it like that. If I feel like it's someone else's desire that I'm not, I don't know, like it kind of is a different fire, right? Like it's not, okay, let's say, how can I put this?
You prioritize.
Yes.
You definitely
So
prioritize.
prioritize.
But you talked about that process. You have your sticky notes each day, and you have your A's, your B's, your C's.
But the thing what Nikki's doing is she's not even doing that job. So half my fucking A's, they're not my passion.
Yeah.
I just got to get them done.
Yeah.
This is what I think in I call it like in Nikki's generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you something what's kind of lacking. I think, we have a little bit of age spread, but I think we kind of grew up with those parents at the same time. And my parents, so like my parents, whether you wanted to get the fucking wood or not, it was your passion, you're going to fucking do it. And so it kind of started to create discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I want to circle back on. A lot of people are always looking for motivation. Mm-hmm. Motivation is like taking cocaine. It gets you really high, like you're in there and you watch Cobra Kai and you're like, holy shit, I got to get back in martial art. That's a motivational piece. But now what disciplinary steps are you going to take? Mm-hmm. And you cannot go from motivation to discipline. You just missed something fucking huge. And guess what that is? Habit. So you can't go from here to here without trying to create a daily habit. You understand what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
I fight the same things you talk about.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. People used to laugh at me when I was a kid because what I did is I used to carry, and I still do to this day, I have 3 different binders. And they're like, where's technology? Aren't you in technology? I say, I don't give a shit. When I sit down, I had an amazing English teacher that taught me this. Today's date, the time I sat down, and the topics that I need to get over. That's Franklin Covey. This is an English teacher. And she would say, take your assignments down, ask the teacher, is this what you want me to do? And then she would, yeah, that's what I want you to do. Look what you've done. You've actually, your client. You wrote what the client's need was. You're affirming with the client that that's exactly what they want. Now you have an action plan. No room for fucking interpretation.
Yeah.
I learned that from my 3rd grade teacher. Think about that.
Yeah.
And I apply that to everything. She's probably made me 50 mil. So that whole thing with you, Nikki, is I see that, is that it's like this. This is what we got to get out of life. Passion should only fucking belong in the bedroom. It ain't gonna fucking get you nowhere. You are very lucky if you're doing your fucking passion. That's one of those things when you hit the lottery, you're doing your passion. Look, there's a difference between developing your craft and becoming very good at it, and you like it and you're in it. It's not your passion. When I'm fucking setting up a data switch, that's not my passion.
But just you've perfected that craft.
I perfected that craft. But if I'm in the bedroom, I want to lay the fucking passion down. You understand what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes.
There is. And I don't think too many times people differentiate between those two.
But you see what I mean?
Oh, I
So guess what we start to do?
Yeah.
Now we're doing this algorithmic math with mixing words and word problems and this shit. And that's not what math's about. And so I don't want to sound good like off the topic here, but I've looked at some of these math problems because they brought it to me, right? And I'm like, there's a very difference of someone that can actually read very well and do mathematics.
Yeah.
And so when I mix those two fucking problems together, you're not challenging the mathematician, you're setting him up to fucking fail. Because he didn't read it correctly. Versus I could give you a very complex, and I did this actual test. Complex formula, add words to it. The guys that could do the formula here, 80% failed. It was the weirdest shit ever.
Yeah, because I think it's 2 different sides of the brain.
2 different sides of the brain.
Yeah, because I think language has nuance, and I've been tutoring a 7th grader, and I look at the word problems now that in the 7th grade that I help them with, and I'm like, okay, look, is there a compound sentence? Are there 2 parts to it? Okay, so that means they want 2 answers. So the nuance of language is completely different in the brain from arithmetic.
But what did they do? The people, the teachers that were signing up more, there's more language teachers being graduated than mathematical teachers or science.
Well, because there's more money in math than there is. So
do you see what I'm saying?
In the fine
So then
arts.
our system got so fucked up and said, guess what? We're going to have English teachers teach everything. But do you see how it all goes through it? But when I'm looking at the mathematics behind it, I was very blessed that I had a Maximo Groulet and that type of people with, or even a Mr. Garcia that was just straight mathematics. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
But don't get off the subject here. So I kind of fell off this.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is when you write that shit down and you say, I suck at this, I suck at that, then what habits am I going to do? And this is why it's so important to get the fuck up, make your bed, brush your teeth, make the coffee the same way you do it, almost like a machine, so you can start to create this repetitive habits in your mind so that you can beat that shit. Right?
Yeah.
That's why I go to the A, B, C, and D. Trust me. The majority of my A's when I got up this morning, they all suck. I don't like to do any of them. But I got to do them. And guess what? My C was something I really like to do. So we can't get that stuck. And I think today what I'm saying is that, but if you're amongst all these circles, do your passion. Passion's going to, you know what the fuck is? There's a lot of broke, passionate people out there. Broke as fuck. And I'm going to tell you right now.
Right here, because my passion is football. And that has never, because I've only coached high school and I've coached my kids. And that doesn't add any zeros to my paycheck. But it's something that I'm passionate about, But I'm exactly that right there, because all I do is shell out money and it doesn't come back in return. It may someday, but not right now. And that passion isn't paying off other than outcomes for my kids and other people's kids.
Or when you're feeling, but this is where it can become a hobby, right? And this is what I think, John, let me give you an example. If we look back at life and we can see that, John's at a mental state that says he can be true with himself. He's like, you know what? It's my fucking passion bringing no money out. I'm showing up. Most people will sit there and say, you know what? No, this passion's going to do something. And all you're setting yourself up is when you get to the top of the fucking cliff and there's no ladder behind you and you jump, the fall's going to be that much harder.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, here's where it's at. And this is where people get fucking mistaken. They're like, you know what? I'm a business owner, but I'm not going to do A, B, and C. And I'm thinking, you're a fucking moron. You thought because you got a title of a business owner that now you don't have to do these things? No, that means you're more accountable.
Yeah.
You're more fucking accountable.
Your skin's in the game.
Beyond the skin. Because if you're just a CEO and you think I'm a badass CEO, you're not as accountable as the fucking board of directors. You understand what I'm trying to say? But what I always try to tell people is this. Did you buy yourself a job? Are you two men in a wire if you're lucky? Or are you the one man in a wire? They're like, and I hear that all the time. I'm looking for my passion. And I'm like, you're going to fucking wake up 20 years, 30 years down the line, and you're going to realize that it fucking sucked. Because what I realize is what you do. And I like to use my friend, the doc. He's a major now. He's a doctor. He said, I'm good at this shit. I'm going to fucking do it. I'm just going to get it done. By the time he's 40, I think he'll be 42 or 41, retired as a major. Pulling on some money as a major is not fucking bad. And he's a medical doctor. Now he can do his fucking passion. If he wants to try something that's passionate, open the guitar store, do it. But sometimes, you know what? You got to be a realist. And you give yourself a time period and say, if I've been doing the same thing over and over and over and over and getting the same result, as Albert Einstein said, that's fucking the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's true.
That's why you have to have 2 gigs.
Yeah.
I didn't get as good as I am. You know, like I hear a lot of people tell me the first day they come in and says, you know what? And they come to me and says, you know what, Jack? I don't want to do this. I want to work for myself. And I'm thinking to myself, well, either you're a fucking prodigy, because what value are you going to bring? I was in the industry for 7 years. That's how I perfected it. Could I come wet out of my ears doing this? No. But because a few people have done it on YouTube and a few people, there's far and few fucking Zuckerbergs.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But you see these new memes that are coming out, which makes sense. Work hard now on everything you don't like. Pay less later.
It's true.
The people are doing their passion, and all this whole shit is there. John, you're one of the most intellectual guys I've ever met. I guarantee that, you know, in your life, whatever you apply your mind to, you're going to do that. But I think you have what's funny, I think, between you and Nikki, what I like about you guys, you also have that very free spirited, like, fuck it, I'll go against the grain kind of shit. But that shit will always get you fucked in the end, or not fucked, but in a position of word immeasurable. And it's like having talent. You look at Allen Iverson, all the talent in the world, beyond the talent in the world, spends $100 million and now he's playing fucking soccer, and it's just a sad story. You guys got to watch that, the Allen Iverson movie. What I want to get out is that these circles of who you're hanging with, at least I'm hanging with the guys that are telling me, oh, let's throwing the shoes, fucking, let's go drink coffee. Well, they're all fucking millionaires. Every single one of them. They just want to like, they don't want me to be, what it is they don't want me to be the beer. And their wives are like, why the fuck did Jack play a gladiator and you did this? So they want me to kind of go and say, no, I gotta let it go with you. No. What I'm saying is that if you want to get better and you want to build good habits in your, like sprouting, like Mr. Miyagi, you know, when he took that little bonsai tree, right? And he says, get the pit moss. You got to build roots. Mm-hmm. And he tells Daniel, this tree, if the roots are strong, will live. And holy shit, it hit me sitting there, and I thought, man, I have strong roots of things, mm-hmm. and I gotta keep on watering and nurturing these roots so that I can continue the growth of all future success. Before you even told me, Nikki, that you had those 3 problems, I already knew that about you.
I know.
Because you have all the talent in the world, but you don't grind at it. You don't like direction. You definitely don't like the status quo. But what I'm going to tell you in fucking life, unless you're a rock star, you're going to have to go status quo. Even the big dogs like me.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to fucking put a third book called Mastering in a Shit Sandwich.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm trying to tell you? As much
Yeah.
as I don't like things, I have to actually be a chameleon all the fucking time. I have to mirror you. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to change my internal principles. If you're a straight up fucking thief, I'm not playing with you. I've been in positions where people have been like, use your knowledge to do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't ever get that mistaken about your internal principles.
So I want to see your insight on this because, you know, I am fortunate of a very few because I've been a paid artist in second grade, but instead of just, you know, going off of art, I educated myself because that's what everybody said to do. You know, you got to get a good education. And, you know, I got my associates and my bachelor's and I've done that. And like, I grinded so hard for so long. And that this year I took a step back and kind of did a lot of self work. And so in that time is when I had the chance to see my flaws. I was going so fucking full speed that I couldn't even my tires weren't even touching the ground. Yes, I did a lot. Yes, I accomplished a lot, but I didn't master a lot. You know, so stepping back this past year and really, you know, looking at all my skills, because a lot of people always come to me about like, you know, opportunity. I'm like, that's never been my issue. Opportunity has never been my issue. I'm really good at what I do, and I'm really good at a lot of things I do. So stepping back this past year, it gave me time to actually like hear my heart and hear like beyond the static of what the hell is really going on. And I'm like, okay, so if I worked my ass off for these many years so much, why didn't I get the results, right? It's because there was a lot of missing links. There was a lot of bad habits. There was a lot of bad, you know, affiliations. My circle wasn't fucking leveled up. I was the top of my circle. That was the biggest thing is I was so busy being I will say it proudly, I'm a creative fucking genius. And I was hanging out trying to convince everybody that they were okay and they could do things. And in that time, it was like a balloon. I was stuck to the ground with a million people trying to ignite their soul when I didn't even finish lighting mine, you know? So like step back today right now, something lit inside of me. And I'm like, okay, you know, went to my friend's house and he grew up in Espanola, and I walk in and I'm like, holy shit, this house is just, whoo, it lit me up and got me fired. Just like being in your car earlier, you know, I'm like, there's just something ignites in me. And I look back and he's like, I sat on this lot 17 years ago selling the house next door to it. And I said, I'm going to live in this neighborhood one day. Not only did he live in that neighborhood, he built the fucking house. He designed it. He was involved in it. I mean, to attention to detail where he placed the light to the color. I mean, it was insane. I was just overstimulated on everything. But it took me back. It relit me. Okay, yeah, that was my thing, is like, it's okay to have great things and big stuff without the New Mexican must be nice. Like, I lost that. I lost those thought patterns that were holding me back from my culture and my friends and stuff, because I no longer am measuring myself amongst other people, but I'm measuring myself of where I know I can go and where I'm at. So like right now is why I'm doing the self-reflection, because let me tell you, I'm about to turn up the fucking heat. And I needed this break, because just because you're going fast doesn't mean you're going in the direction. Just because you're stepping on the gas doesn't mean you're getting somewhere.
But this is the thing is, Nikki. So I guess the question you're going to start with a question. So you like, based on what the statement you made for internal, you're like, you know what? I had the gas going, fucking pedal to the metal. But in your mind, and this is something you can answer for yourself, was it pedal to the metal Camaro status? Was it pedal to the metal fucking Corvette status? Was it pedal to the metal fucking Lamborghini status? And so when you ask that question, right?
You're not ready for my answer.
You know what I'm trying to say? Because then I'm going to say, well, because be careful what you say right now. I'm going to take you
I know.
I'm going to take you to the next one, right? Because if that was the case and that measurable, so the way, you know, they say, you know, in the way you measure velocity is measured either negative or positive. From the 0 to the forward, it's measured in speed, but it's still fucking velocity. So the thing is, if I turn I'm going backwards, right? And I'm like, I pedal the metal backwards. Well, you're fucking going negative.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is is how would you gauge yourself? Like, how could you internally gauge yourself that you're going pedal to the metal and that you're saying the tires are just fucking spinning? I mean, how do you quantify that? Like, how are you going pedal to the metal?
I had like one rollerblade on one fucking foot and my other foot on a Harley. I was not leveled out, is really the truth.
Okay. So I like that. So see, that's what I'm saying, because when we use the words, this is the fucking language. It goes back to John. Mm-hmm. Because what I was getting in my mind was fucking Lamborghini tires on the fucking pavement going all forward. But you see how you explained that it was one rollerblade on one on the Harley.
Much more apt description.
Yeah, do you see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
It's a really good one.
Which is a really fucking amazing one. So what we're saying, Nikki, was if I was like, now if we're gauging from the top down, they would have said, you know what? Your car was on blocks with no tires and the fucking thing was spinning at a high velocity, but it wasn't going anywhere. But it wasn't pedal to metal tires in the ground. Mm-hmm. And this is why we have to hang with people that are going to keep us accountable and be able to take us to really look at it and say, no, are you fucking kidding me? This is why, like, for myself, right, I would say, man, what it would be for me to sit with Warren Buffett. And I'm just sitting there with Warren Buffett and he's laying it down and saying, no, dude, those moves are fucking Pee Wee Herman. I wouldn't be like that. I'd be like, holy shit, well, how'd I get to the next level, right? Because he's going to tell me those aren't billionaire moves. Mm-hmm. Those are millionaire moves, right? Mm-hmm. Or no, these are 100,000-aire moves. So it's crazy because till you've been there, done it, tasted it, got the fucking t-shirt, you can't quantify it.
Yep.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So when people are telling me I've done fucking great things, and I'm like, in what? Like, give me the fucking example. And I'm sitting there like, well, you know what? I fucking was the best hopscotch artist. Well, I'm like, well, fuck, at least we know what we're talking about, because we can't just give such a broad, because what we'll do is train our brain for bullshit. Mm-hmm. We got to sit there and say, you know what? It's like when I've been doing these last things, you know what? I've been fucking around for a long time. I got to take my physicality here based on fucking Michael Hearn or whatever it is. I'm like that. So I'm fucking failing like a motherfucker because I'm not doing this, and this. But if I'm gauging myself, everyone around me, I'm fucking killing it. I'm like, oh, you know what I'm trying to tell you? And that's not what we want to do. We don't want to become literally just static in a little universe, like in between two magnets. Mm-hmm. We don't want to do that. And it just, you're going to just fuck your own mindset. And you'll create all these bad mind patterns that are better than the ones you had, but they're still bullshit.
Exactly.
Right?
It's true.
Fucking the difference between muddy water and brown water is just one's a little clearer than the other.
Yep.
You see what I'm doing? Yeah. I mean? It's still fucking moat water.
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. And so it's fucking crystal water. And it's not about what's better and what's good or what's that. It's what is actually serving us. And this is what I was talking about in the last podcast. It's the fucking resource. Money's just a resource. You can't do nothing with the fucking paper. If I get a big old $200,000 stack, I can't eat that fucker.
Yep.
If I was hungry, I can't eat the money. If I'm cold, it's not going to really heat that well. Yep. It's just a resource. It's what you apply to it.
And I love it because, like, sitting amongst you and knowing, your status quo on your abundance, the mindset you have towards it is what makes you a legend. A lot of people think that when they have this stack of money that it all of a sudden, like, you have superpowers or something. At the end of the day, if you still don't have the right habits, you don't have the right patterns and the right people, that money will go like nothing, And that's one of the things of this past year that I learned is like, fuck, I've made a shit ton of money. And what the hell do I have to show? A $3,000 RV? Really, what do I have to show about it? So I'm like, okay, moving forward, it's absolutely fine because I'm still young. However, I'm way behind schedule with you, but I know what I need to do moving forward. It's like, how am I retaining my money? How am I managing it? And it was one of those things where I had to drain the pond. I had to remove people's thought patterns.
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
One of I was talking to one of my friends, and I'm not going to give the exact names, but I was blown away. Before him and his wife got married, she was about 23, 24, and she had been like a flight attendant and stuff. She had saved $150,000.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit, dude. Because I did that at 25, but I was a fucking like exec. Like I was killing it. But I'm talking She's not over there flossing it. She's like putting it away into where she actually, had to sign a prenup because of this money. I'm telling you right now, you save $100,000. That's probably one of the biggest achievements you'll do in your life. Even it doesn't matter. Getting that first $100,000 is crazy. So she's telling me that, and I'm like, holy shit, that was fucking discipline. I could have got there, but I like sport cars, and I wanted this, and I wanted that, and I wanted that. But when you think about that discipline, you're like, holy shit. It's like you, Nikki. You never had a Pee Wee Herman jobs. Mm-hmm. You had great fucking jobs, but either you were flossing or being fucking crazy or trying to help everybody in the world. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that's what I'm trying to talk about.
Yep. Is
that time and that resource and that agenda. My fear was, since day one, am I ever going to get this opportunity again? So I would just work crazy fucking time and then put away all the nuts like a squirrel. And so, I don't know if I always told you this, but I used to create this analogy in my mind that I was a squirrel and I had these 2 nut trees, and winter was going to come and I'm just putting all the nuts away. And so I had 3 trees, the big nut tree, the medium nut tree, but I'd hang out in the 3rd tree, the skinny one, to let everyone think that I lived in the skinny tree, but I had these nuts hidden away. That's how I truly thought. It. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that what ends up happening is that's how you have to approach life, even with knowledge. Like people ask me, say, why do you fucking read so much and do this and all that? I was like, I'm not where I want to be. Mm-hmm. I'm not where I want to be, because I'm telling you right now that if I was where I want to be, there'd be a fucking driver dropping me off in that front door and another motherfucker wheeling me in like Prince Nassim. No, I'm just kidding. That's a little much. But,
I'll drive you in here, coach.
You know what I'm trying?
Oh, yeah, no.
But the thing is about it,
you haven't hit your you still haven't hit your highest level.
And all kidding aside, I haven't hit my highest level.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's the best, though.
But you know what's crazy? Mm-hmm. I don't bullshit myself. Mm-hmm. And you know why I'm not at that level? Because I'm not practicing the fucking habits. Look, guys, when I talk on paper, like when I look at it, like literally I was a prodigy. God gave me like extreme brilliance. School was a fucking cakewalk for me. When I got to college, I had to put my time in, but it's because a little motherfucker had a bad attitude. But then once I got my attitude under control, everything was a piece of cake. But when I sit there and I'm on a plane and I'm like, what's the next moves? And I'm like, I have not created the habits that I want, because guess what? I have to get up even earlier. I have to lay out this plan. I have to say what it's going to take me to get here. I have to do the simple math behind it. And at the end of the day, say, this is how much I want to put in my pocket. This is what's going to take to do this, and start doing my risk analysis and start going for it. Because sitting here talking about it and thinking about it, like, oh, fucking great. We just rolled up in a $350,000 Lamborghini. People are thinking, is that guy fucking crazy? No, that's not it for me. That's just basic. Me rolling up over here, that $350,000 Lamborghini is like fucking the majority of people going to Red Lobster. That's how it makes me feel. Because I am not done. Let me tell you why. I made an internal promise to myself and said, there'll be one day that I will single-handedly be able to feed all of northern New Mexico. I don't give a shit what you're doing. On my own. Like, I'm talking fucking semi-trucks rolling in. Regardless if you're fucking up in life, you'll never have to worry about putting food in your pocket. It's something I talked to Michael about. I don't give a shit if you're a complete fuck up, but your kid has his shoes and a coat. So in my mind, I'm like, no, I haven't achieved that. I need billionaire power. Not only to maximize my internal dreams, but the things that I want to do. But I don't do it out there like, oh, I want to do this so I can feed the children. Don't get me fucking wrong. I want it so I can be driven around, number one, and then I can do what I do best. So never make those weird concessions. Don't lie to yourself. Really give the concession of why you want to get there. And this is what I'm talking about creating that circle. Mm-hmm. So guess what? I have to get around some hungry, drooling tigers to motivate me so I can sit there and say, I need to get that aspect in training, financially, all this. So I just have that aspect and say, this is what I got to do.
Yeah.
Do you want to partake? Is there anything we can do together? Like-minded minds, right?
Yeah.
This is why I've always told myself, this fucking guy would have been born in New York City on the stock exchange, it would have been game over. I have maximized to the fullest based on my environment. But I know that. Mm-hmm. But what's kept me from not moving on to the next level is I'm honest with myself. It's complacency.
Mm-hmm.
I've become a big fish
Yeah.
in my ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? I don't like humidity. Did you know that's the majority of why I've lost about, I would say, the last 5-7 years, and people probably want to slap me? About 70 million is because of humidity.
Mm-hmm. You refuse to move to those climates.
Yeah,
Yeah, that you can make so much more in those type of places.
true statement.
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy? That's how much fucking, I know what my sacrifice level is. Because I made it in those climates. That's what got me here.
Yeah.
Right? And I told myself when I get to a certain point, I'm not going fucking going back. It's like certain people that have a certain level of poverty, like, fuck, I'm not going to do that. That's what's kept me from not fucking doing that. And so I said, I need to be able to make always the amount of money to be able to have in the places that I want. That's New Mexico, California, Cabo. I don't want to be in fucking Cancun where it's all humid to fuck. But guess what? The places where I want to be cost the most fucking money.
Yep.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
It's all based on climate.
Yeah.
But when you looked at people conquering locations, it was all based on climate.
Yeah.
You know, the craziest thing that I think comes from your circle is I remember when, you know, I decided to leave Fender. And at that time, I just went on a crazy spiritual journey. And I remember my spiritual mentor, Sinead, she tells me, "Are you sure you want to dance with me?" And I didn't understand what she meant. And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" She goes, "The second you dance with me, your whole life's going to change. Are you sure you want this?" And I really just walked in there like blindfolded because there was something missing that I was going. But shit you not, the second I started working with that lady, like immediately my entire friends list just dropped. But yeah, these healers and these people that are like doing epic stuff across the globe came up. And so I lost dead weight. And I gained like people that made me rise and, you know, inspired me. And so when I think about, you know, the 3 years after that of what that led and that vibrational change of what I received and the people that I met. And then let's fast forward to now. When I first started rolling with you, all of a sudden, same thing happened to me. Friends dropped and you arised, you know, and I kind of did it in a little bit, not noticing. But the other day, you know, hanging around and I'm sitting there with my friend Monica and man, it's just like an older version of me because I'm like, man, I used to just work hard like that all the time and, you know, seeing the drive. And it's like all of a sudden I look around and everybody I'm at is looking for that level up. Everybody that's in my circle is looking for that next best them, that next best thing, that better version of them fucking selves, you know? And it's so funny though, because if you decide to sit there and try to like, you know, pet the sheep, you kind of get lost, and next thing you know, you're one of the sheep in that sense, right?
And one thing is you got to understand is you don't want to get caught up on Nikki like you is that, you know, if you want to get to spiritual level of the Dalai Lama, odds are you're gonna be broke as fuck.
Yeah.
It's like Mother Teresa, right? You're getting that capital and that whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
I've always shout out for that balance. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very
duality.
I'm very spiritual, but I don't want to be fucking broke.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? I don't want to feel that whole, I want to feel a shaman vibe, right? No.
Yeah.
I want the luxury feel. You know, it's funny when it's not funny, but when the priest was describing my heaven and we're in the church for my mom's funeral, and he said, the reason this church, and it's kind of in a poor part of the neighborhood, and he says, this church, all the marble and the thing is really to represent how heaven looks. So be from that spiritual standpoint, I go there, God didn't build this shit. He didn't say it was going to be dirt and some weeds and some shit like that. Gold and all the great mints in the world that we talk about, gold, diamonds, rubies, all that. And so I think that for me personally, I always strive for greatness in all three, but I know that duality you talk about and that
Mm-hmm.
balance, it's like you can't go too much in one. One will take you here, but you have to have that balance and understand, okay, I'm master here. I need to step on this one. Okay, I got to go here. So that I can continue that forward momentum and you're not fucking stuck in the same story over and over like a hamster wheel in your mind, right? Because when you really think about all the people that were around you, I've studied with a lot of great spiritual people, right? And all
Mm-hmm.
kinds, but they're broke as fuck.
Yeah.
And so
I love that you say this because this
just broke as
resonates
fuck,
so good.
right? And so I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, like me and you couldn't quantify greatness the way you say it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like, they did epic things, and I'm like, epic. Okay, they were epic. Well, they broke as fuck. So then for me, I'm like, fuck, that was an epic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm such a quantifiable engineering mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? Very subatomic. But this is what I want. I don't want. It's kind of like what Carson talks about. Like, I've been working fucking the kid. I'm fucking working 20 hours a day, putting the grind, and he doesn't got shit to show for it. You're fucking a legend in your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the people around you are afraid to tell you that you're bullshit. Or the people around you don't want to level up, and they don't want you to surpass them so that they have to level up. And that's what today's about.
Yep.
And so what I want to do is end this podcast with really reflect in the shit that you're putting in your mind. Is it really going to be valid? And is it going to be nourishment for your mind, body, and soul? Are the people around treat everybody, circumstances, people like the bank? If you put $100 in the bank and you went the next day and it only had $90, would you keep your money in that bank? Are you getting compound dividends from the people you're hanging with? Mind, body, spirit. If you're around a motherfucker, you go around and your energy feels low, get rid of him or get rid of her.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing across all things. So you can sit down quietly. And what meditation is about is quieting your mind so that you can actually see reality for what it is. That's what meditation is about.
Yes.
So, guys, until next week, don't settle for bullshit. Level up like the volume.